Hello, welcome to our first NetScaler Bytes video. Today we're going to be covering an interesting feature in NetScaler Console, automated Web Application Firewall recommendations. So first of all, you might be thinking, Web Application Firewall, can't you just turn the WAF on? So let me tell you how WAF configuration used to work, or at least how it worked when I was in consulting. I'd sit down with a client and I'd say, right, I need to understand your applications so I can write the right rule set for you. And I would get one of two responses. Response one, great. Here are our application team. They'll walk you through everything. And I would spend days, sometimes weeks, going through the architecture, the public-facing endpoints, the expected traffic patterns, and at the end of it, you would have a really well-tuned rule set. Then you got response two. Response two was more common than you'd think. There isn't an app team. This app was built by Bob. Bob was an intern. Bob left 6 years ago. Can't you just turn the WAF on? And then you're into doing archaeology. You're poking at the application. You're trying to figure out what's normal, what's expected, what would break if you started to block something. It takes time, it takes expertise, and honestly, for a lot of apps, it's just never happened. The business couldn't justify the cost. That's the reality this solves. WAF Scanner makes the creation of a rule set automatic. You point this scanner at an application, it analyzes the platform, and it generates a rule set for you. Is it the same as weeks of expert analysis? No, let's be honest about that. But weeks of expert analysis weren't happening for many of the applications anyway. So the real question isn't, is automated scanning going to be as good as an expert configuration? The question really is, what's the alternative? And for many organizations, the alternative was having no protection or protection that was so generic, it might as well not be there. The WAF scanner lets you go from zero to protected quickly for the applications that you were never going to give that attention to otherwise. Now, with all of that said, that's the whys. Let's launch into some requirements. Now, of course, it's a NetScaler Console feature. So NetScaler Console is absolutely a requirement, as you might expect. With that said, there are only two real requirements here. You must be running a relatively recent version of NetScaler. And requirement two, the web application itself, that's the web app that needs protecting, needs to be sitting behind a Citrix load balancer. Hopefully that's true for everything that you're thinking about protecting, possibly more. And with all of that said, let's move on very quickly to a demo. Now, this is my test lab. It's got a demonstration web application sitting here. You can see with this web application, I've got a login screen here, which is sitting in my lab environment. This is not a real test app, I should say, but sitting in my lab. I've got a nice interface here, and I've got lots of buttons which go off to different areas. And this is the sort of thing which I might have been faced with and said, how does all of this work? And have to go and talk to various people. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the shield option in NetScaler Console. I'm going to do WAF recommendations, and I'm going to find the app, the vServer this is running on. I'm going to set a domain name in here. remote.mycoolcompany.com is what I've used for my own personal lab environment. Of course, that could be anything which is online. I'm going to set the starting URL to scan from. That's where this scanner is going to start looking here. I had a login page. So I'm going to explicitly give it that login page, and I have gone and opened up developer tools, and I found the form names. So I've got a form name of user. I've got another form name here for the password. I type in the form name, and again, I would type in my username and password. And that's going to let this web app, this is going to let the scanner rather directly log in to the web app. A couple more options in there if I wanted to change things like scan depth, the number of pages that it's going to follow from that starting page. And when I tell it to go, as it were, it's going to start scanning that web app. Now, you can continue to use Console at this point. For the purposes of the demo, however, I'm going to leave this page open. And you can see here that it's now scanned the web app. It's connected from Console. It's gone and scanned all of the various pages to a depth of 3, because that's what we set it to. Again, it was customizable. And I can now view a report. I can see very quickly that it's an ASP.NET app and that it's running on a Windows IIS server. It's going to tell me information about the various pages, what forms has it found, what form fields has it located for me, and which URLs did it follow. And again, it's followed all of the links coming from that starting page. Now, if I review the recommendations in here, you can see it's immediately created me not only security recommendations, but also a set of signatures, negative security signatures, things that I would want to block if this was going to IIS. Now, I'll set that to 25 rows so you can see many of these, and I can page forward. I think it said there were 280 or so of these. But if you just simply see it continue forward, you can see it's turned on all of the ones relevant to me and my specific web app. And when I click apply at the bottom of the screen, you can now see that it's gone off and created some settings automatically within a style book, and I could now apply this directly onto my NetScaler environment. So if I was doing this for a customer, as an example, they might have said to me, Stephen, could you protect 200 web apps for me? And I would have said, yes, I can absolutely do that. And I would have selected to scan each of those web apps. I could have continued to use Console while that was going on. All of the web apps would have been automatically scanned for me in the background. I would have had a WAF configuration automatically created, which was relevant for each of them. And then when I hit apply recommendations, I would have had the settings necessary to deploy from Console and immediately protect those web apps. So there we have it, a level of protection applied very, very quickly, automatically sent out to NetScalers. Again, those NetScalers could be sitting absolutely anywhere. I'm doing this in my lab, but there's nothing to stop me scanning this across 50, 60 NetScalers in different locations. And there we have it, a very, very rapid way to provide protection. And with that, I think there's nothing more than to say thank you very much for joining me for this first webinar. Have a great day.